Welcome to another episode of Southern Sorcery. Thanks for hanging out with us today, guys. We are looking at a new build for Sliver Overlord with the Edge of Eternity set coming out. People are getting excited about slivers again. So we did a deck tech about a year or so ago with Sliver Overlord. That was one of our friends' decks. This time we're doing a little bit more powerful slivers. So we hope you like this brand new look at a revisit on an old deck. So this is going to be a more powerful build. It's going to be more of a combo deck. So this is not going to be CEDH. It's not fast enough to be considered CEDH, but it is going to be on the higher tier, the higher power, definitely a level 4, probably on the higher power level 4. Again, we are trying to combo off. However, it's not going to be like a single card, couple card combo. It takes several cards to make this combo go off. So the strategy is going to be to sort of control the table before we can get to our win. So yeah, with no further ado, let's jump into it. So we are looking at Sliver Overlord, which is Wooburg, which means one of each color pip. So white, blue, black, red, green is Wooburg, and it is a Sliver Mutant Legend. It's a 7/7, so it's a big old beastie, and it has two different abilities. The first one is you pay 3, and you can search your library for a Sliver card, reveal that card, and then put it into your hand, and then you shuffle. And then the second one is pay 3 to gain control of a target Sliver. We're not going to be utilizing that. However, that does open it up for a more casual build where you like turn your opponent's stuff into slivers and then you can steal it, which is really fun. People hate it equally, but it is a little more casual than the first one where we're going to tutor up every sliver we could need for every possible situation, get those out, and then combo off for the win. So before we jump into the deck build, help me out and do all that YouTube stuff. Just hit the like button, drop a comment why you love slivers, why you hate slivers, why you don't care about slivers, why you should care about slivers. Can it be CEDH? Can it not be CEDH? Just jump down in the comments. Let's start having some conversations about slivers. And then also, today's video is brought to you by Nerd Gear. We are proud ambassadors of Nerd Gear, and we used to offer 5% off. Now we're offering 10% off of your orders over at nerdgear.gg. They've got sleeves, playmats. Playmat Sanctuary is awesome storage. We've got dry erase tokens, the Commander Essentials kit, all kinds of fun, good stuff. If you play Magic, they've got so much cool stuff. So go check that out and see if you like anything, and use, again, 10% off using our code SOUTHERN at checkout. The other sponsor of today's video is you. You are our sponsor. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and choosing to spend some time with Southern Sorcery. It helps us out a ton just to watch the videos. We also have an amazing group of patrons. If you are interested in becoming a patron and supporting us that way, we're offering $1 Lord of the Ring booster packs for our new patrons. So if you want to help us out, we help you out. We do lots of great box breaks and cheap packs on the weekly, and you guys can sign up for that once you are patrons. But with no further ado, let's go ahead and jump on into this. All right, so here we are. We are looking at our deck build here over on Moxfield. You will be able to jump down in the link and go check that out. But first, let's talk about the creatures. In our old build, we had a lot more creatures, but in this build, because Sliver Overlord is a tutor. Tutor just means that you can go find a card in the deck. Search for is another way of saying tutor. Tutor is just Magic for saying I can go into my deck and look for a specific card. So you can tutor or search for a certain sliver over here. So since we can go get those certain slivers with Sliver Overlord, what we did was we got rid of some of those slivers, the ones that, buffed up our team. Like, we don't really want to win through combat damage. That would be a last resort. So we wanted to put in more control. So we opted to take out quite a few of our slivers, leaving in the ones that we need to get to our combo. And then we added in some more instants and sorceries, some other tutors, and some control to help keep the board state where we want it, to buy us some time to get to our win, because it's going to take turn 5, turn 6 for this to really be able to combo off. Anyway, we will just start with our creatures. As we said, of course, Sliver Overlord, but then we've got Birds of Paradise. Birds of Paradise will tap for a mana, so this is just ramp. We have Blur Sliver. 2 and a red. Sliver creatures you control have haste. So our creatures having haste is a big part of the combo. So we have several different ways to give haste, including Cloud Shredder Sliver. Sliver creatures you control have flying and haste. Crystalline Sliver is white and a blue for a sliver that says slivers cannot be the target of spells or abilities. This is just to help us keep our combo pieces. This is protection for the blur sliver or the cloud shredder sliver. This is to keep our slivers out. We've also got Gale Rider sliver. So the slivers we kept were cheap slivers or slivers that played into our combo piece. So we'll talk exactly about how that works here after we go through all the cards. But this is a 1-drop sliver. We also have Gem Hide sliver. All slivers have tap, add 1 mana of any color. That is the second piece of our combo, being able to tap our slivers for mana. We've also got Heart Sliver, it grants haste. We've got Lava Belly Sliver, 1 red and a white. So we can combo off with Lava Belly Sliver as well. As we have creatures entering the battlefield, sliver creatures you control have, when this creature enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to target player or planeswalker, and you gain 1 life. So as slivers come into the battlefield, we can drain our opponents for life. We also have Mana Weft Sliver, another sliver that lets other sliver creatures that we control tap for 1 mana of any color. We also have Morphon the Boundless. Morphon is probably a fringe cut. You could potentially take him out for something else, but it does give us a reduction. Spells of the you choose a creature type when Morphon enters the battlefield. Spells of the chosen type are reduced by Wooburg, which means we can play things like our commander for free, and so that's also pretty helpful. It potentially can just get us to the win a little bit faster, so that's why Morphon's in here. Plus, you can tutor for him because he's a shapeshifter and a changeling, so that means he's every creature type, which means he's a sliver. We've also got Quick Sliver. This lets us play slivers at instant speed, which is really nice because potentially we could combo off on another player's turn. But also just being able to play slivers as responses is huge, because we can go in and get, for example, we could go get the sliver that grants our slivers Shroud, the one we were just talking about, the Crystalline Sliver. Slivers can't be the targets of spells or abilities, so that gives them Shroud. Is that's just an old printing of this card, but that has been errated to be a keyword called Shroud now. So we can play that at instant speed, and then, if someone had cast something targeting one of our slivers, in response we could go put this sliver into play, and then the spell would fizzle because our slivers have Shroud. We also have got Root Sliver. Root Sliver can't be countered, and sliver spells can't be countered. So it just makes our stuff unable to be countered, which is really good. We also have Sliver Hive Lord. Sliver Hive Lord is Wooburg, and it says sliver creatures you control have indestructible. Again, another way to protect the slivers that we have out on our board. We have Sliver Queen. Sliver Queen can also be a part of this combo. She is Wooburg, and she's a sliver. The old printing says Sliver Queen counts as a sliver. This was back before they started giving legends creature types. You can see in the card right there, you see here it says Summon Legend. This has just been changed. Like on new creatures, it says Sliver. Sliver Queen didn't have that, so it had it in her text box here. But anyway, you can pay 2 and put a sliver token into play. It is a 1/1 colorless creature. Again, so we're putting a 1/1 colorless sliver creature token onto the battlefield for 2 mana. Being able to put more slivers into play and then tap all of your slivers for mana, that's potentially part of the combo. So what we tried to do was put in a bunch of pieces that can all combo together. That way, you have multiple chances of getting to a combo more quickly. We also have the Synapse Sliver, 4 and a blue. This is one of the few slivers we kept that's more expensive, because whenever a sliver deals combat damage to a player, its controller may draw a card. So that is card draw. Sometimes we really need to draw a card. We've also got Siphon Sliver. This is 2 and a black. Sliver creatures you control have lifelink. Again, our game plan is to try to get to turn 5, 6, 7 to combo off, and gaining life is a good way to stay in the game if you need to be in it that long. We also have the Telekinetic Sliver. This is 2 blue. This is another way that potentially you can keep yourself in the game. It has an ability that says all slivers have tap to tap target permanent. So we can literally tap our opponent's creatures down, which means they can't swing at us, which is great. We also have got the First Sliver. First Sliver is Wooburg, and it has Cascade. This is just lets you play spells for free. Cascade is a mechanic that says when you cast this spell, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card that costs less. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Put exiled cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. So being able to play spells for free. This is also another fringe cut. You could cut that for more interaction if you were really trying to or fast mana. We've also got Venom Sliver, 1 and a green. Sliver creatures you control have Death Touch. This is just a cheap sliver. Virulent Sliver, also a cheap sliver. And then Wing Sliver, another cheap slivers. So a lot of the time you'll want to go search for a creature that is cheap just to get it into play so that we can use it for other purposes, which we will talk about. Next up under sorceries, we've got Blasphemous Act. This is another just piece of insurance to keep the game going a little longer for us to get to our combo. We've got Cruel Tutor, we've got Demonic Tutor, we've got Diabolic Tutor, we have Grim Tutor. So all of those are going to let us go get a card out of our library that we want and put it into our hand. And they have a couple of different criteria that get met. Grim Tutor is put it in your hand and then you lose 3 life. Diabolic Tutor is put it into your hand then shuffle, but it costs 4. Demonic Tutor is search your library for a card, put it in your hand. And Cruel Tutor is search your library for any card and put it on top of your deck and you lose 2 life. So all of those are going to go get a specific card that we want. We also have got some ramp pieces here under sorceries, which is going to be Farseek, Nature's Lore, Rampant Growth, and 3 Visits. All 3 of those let us go get a very specific kind of card. It names a type of land, which means we'll be able to go get a Triome or a Shock Land or a Surveil because it names a card type and doesn't just say go get a basic land. The only one that says basic land is the Rampant Growth, and we do have one of each kind of basic land, so we'll be able to go get one with Rampant Growth. But the faster we can ramp, the faster we can get out our commander, which means that we can get to our combo pieces faster. So under instance, we have got And They Shall Know Fear. You choose a creature type and they get indestructible and +1/+0 until the end of turn. This is just a piece of protection. We've got Anguish Unmaking, so we can exile something that's holding us back. And we've got An Offer You Can't Refuse, which is a counter, so is Arcane Denial. Assassin's Trophy is more spot removal, as is Beast Within. They can go get rid of any permanent. Brainstorm, which is some card draw. We've got Counterspell, which of course is a counterspell. We've also got Cyclonic Rift. This is another way for us to just keep the board states around us in check. And we've also got Deflecting Swat, which is another piece of interaction. It will allow us to choose a new target for an ability or a spell. We've got Enlightened Tutor, which goes and gets a artifact or enchantment for us, which we need. Also got Fierce Guardianship, another counter spell you can play for free. Force of Will is also a free counter spell if you exile a blue card from your hand. We've got Mana Drain, which will ramp us and get rid of something we don't like. We've also got Negate to counter a target non-creature spell so we can combat some removal or board wipe. We've got more spot removal with Path to Exile. We've got Shadowbringers. This is just Dovin's Veto. It's just got that skin on it from Final Fantasy, but this one is really good. This spell can't be countered and you counter target non-creature spell. So it again will stop things like board wipes and spot removal. We've also got Swan Song, which counters an enchantment, an instant, or sorcery, and it gives that opponent a 2/2 bird. We've also got some more removal with Swords of Plowshares, and then one last tutor here. We've got Vampiric Tutor. And then under artifacts, we've also got more ramp. So we've got Arcane Signet, which is ramp, Felwar Stone, which is ramp, the Mox Diamond, Soul Ring. We also have the One Ring. This is also potentially a fringe cut too, but having the One Ring be indestructible, and then it gives you that protection from everything until the next turn. This is just, aside from it being an excellent source of card draw, this can also extend our life a little longer, getting us to, again, that turn 5, turn 6 that we need to get to before we can combo off. And then I wanted to add the new Thrumming Hive Pool, which is 6, and it has an affinity for slivers, so you can potentially get it out for free. And then slivers you control have double strike and haste. Again, we do want the haste as part of the combo, so it's not completely useless here, although it's probably a fringe cut. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, create 2 1/1 slivers, and part of the combo is just being able to get out more slivers. So this sort of plays into what we want to do. We don't really care so much about the double strike, but it is some redundancy, albeit an expensive one, unless you have creatures out. And then last, under enchantments, we've got Cryptolith Rite. Creatures you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. Again, we want to be able to tap those slivers for mana. We also have Defense of the Heart. This is another tutor. It's 3 and a green for an enchantment that says during your upkeep, if one or more opponents control 3 or more creatures, sacrifice Defense of the Heart, search your library for up to 2 creature cards, put those into play, shuffle your library afterwards. So Defense of the Heart can actually pay off if you get it out in the early game, and you can pay it off on like turn 4. You could get to your combo on turn 4, honestly, just because it goes and gets the 2 creatures you want and puts them into play, cheating out the mana. That's pretty big. Being able to go and get 2 of the slivers that are 2 of the like 4 pieces you need to combo off is really good, assuming you have your commander out. Putting out those other 2 slivers and having some mana on that turn, you probably could get there. We also have Elven Chorus, 3 and a green to add creatures you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. It also lets you look at the top card of your library and you can cast creature spells from the top of your library. So just a little bit of card advantage, but more we want it for the creatures you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. We also have Guardian Project. This is some card draw for us too. And then the next 3 cards are cards we absolutely want to see come out. So the first one is going to be Impact Tremors. If you've ever played Magic against or with Impact Tremors in your deck, you should understand how this one works. However, if you have not, let me tell you, this is a really, really good card. It's 1 in a red for an enchantment that says whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Impact Tremors deals 1 damage to each opponent. So we can use Impact Tremors, and if we're using Sliver Queen or something else, or we're casting a lot of creatures, we can very quickly drain our opponents for life because it's 1 damage to each opponent. It's not just a target opponent. So Impact Tremors can absolutely win games. That is a combo piece. Probably the single biggest combo piece in this deck, and the MVP is Intruder Alarm. This is an enchantment that says creatures don't untap during their controller's untap steps. Whenever a creature enters a battlefield, untap all creatures. So no one's creatures are going to untap on their untap step the way it normally does. However, when a creature comes into play, everyone untaps all of their creatures. Intruder Alarm is the single biggest piece of this because it allows us to tap our slivers for mana to play another sliver and then untap all of our slivers. So that's why we need the haste, and that's why we want Intruder Alarm, is because with something like Sliver Queen, we can pay 2 to put a sliver into play. So as long as we have 3 slivers out that can tap, we are going to be able to start tapping for infinite. We'll have infinite mana of any color at that point. And then with infinite mana of any color, you can go tutor up any of those other slivers with our commander, who has the ability to pay 3 to go search your library for a sliver card, reveal it. And from that point, we can go and get something like Lava Belly Sliver, which is going to deal 1 damage to target player. And because we have infinite mana, we can make infinite 1/1 with Sliver Queen, and then Lava Belly is whenever this creature enters a battlefield, it deals 1 damage, so we can drain out the whole board. So that's probably the best and most efficient way to kill someone, or with Impact Tremors, you can do that. There's a couple of other things you could do. Obviously, you could just make 1 trillion slivers and give them flying and swing out. There's several other little combo pieces as well that you can do. You can do the Virulent Sliver and kill people with poison. And then our last enchantment is going to be Training Grounds, which reduces the activated abilities of creatures you control by 2. It can't reduce it to less than 1, however. But with Training Grounds out, it lets Sliver Overlord's search ability become just 1 generic mana, which reduces that cost. So then, you could potentially get there a little faster without having to pay the 3 to go and find a sliver. You can just pay 1. And it also reduces the cost of Sliver Queen. The ability to put the token into play becomes 1 generic instead of 2. But let's quickly look at our land base. We're in 5 colors, so you do want to have an expensive land base, unfortunately. So we've got a Shock lands, which, as you can see with this Blood Crypt here, Shock refers to the ability to enter untapped. You can pay 2 life, and if you don't, it'll enter tapped. So they call that a shock because you have to pay the 2 life, so it shocks you. We've also got some like Boseiju, who endures. You can channel it to destroy a target artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land. So if you've got something that you need to deal with, we've got it also in our lands. Breeding Pool's another shock land. Cavern of Souls is nice because if we use Cavern of Souls, you add 1 mana of any color to cast a creature spell of the chosen type being slivers, and then that spell can't be countered, so we're making it uncounterable. City of Brass taps for a mana of any color. We've got some other things like that. We also have the a few of the triomes, which the triomes, as you can see here, it is a forest, island, or a mountain. So whenever you search using those terms, like with Farseek or 3 visits, those say go look for a forest, you can go find that specific land type there. So you can go get this card, which taps for 1 of 3 colors, as opposed to going and just getting a basic land. So that's sort of the game plan with our mana base, is just to be able to get to those 5 colors as fast as we can so we can get our commander out. We didn't put much other utility in our mana base, as again, we're not looking to go to combat if we don't have to. Again, we want to combo off with this. So we didn't put a ton of utility lands here. We didn't do, like a Rogue's Passage or anything, because we're not really worried about trying to get damage through. We're trying to do it all at one time, but hopefully not even have to go to combat. So that is the strategy here. Let's jump down into the simulator here, and we'll just see how quickly we can get to our combo pieces with a little demonstration. All right, so we've got an opening 7 here that looks okay. I'd prefer to not have 4 lands, but we've got 4 lands and a Felwar Stone, so that right there is enough to get us to our commander on turn 4, which is pretty good. We got the Felwar Stone. We also have a little bit of interaction there with the Cyclonic Rift, so, and another sliver in hand. So not great, not an incredible opening hand, but enough that we can run with it, I think. So let's go to the playtest. We'll draw for our first turn, in which we drew a command tower. Again, didn't want to see a land, but whatever. We don't have a turn 1 play, so let's go ahead and get a shock land out. That way it can just come in tapped and we don't mind. We'll move to our next turn. Another land. Wow, that's kind of surprising. Let's go ahead and use our Windswept Heath. We will pay 1 life and we'll go get... we'll go search our library for a land. We don't have anything to play for 3, so we might as well get a Triome. Close and shuffle. That's going to come in tap. So nothing on turn 2. Turn 3. Boy, more and more land. So let's just go with a Temple Garden. It can come in tapped, and we can tap 2 for a Felwar Stone. So that gives us green, white, red, and then whatever else we need here. Yeah, so we'll be able to at least get our commander out next turn. So go to our next turn. All right, we finally have another sliver. We can do unclaimed territory. We'll be fine. Naming slivers. We can tap out and go ahead and get Sliver Overlord out. Just be mindful that if Sliver Overlord gets countered here, we're somewhat screwed. So just be mindful of what's happening at the rest of the table when you go to cast Sliver Overlord, if you don't have a way to cast him without it being able to be countered. So just make sure there's no floating blue that's open. We can go to our next turn. So this is turn 5. We can go Command Tower. So this is a good combo piece. One of our combo pieces here is Heart Sliver. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. So we can search for 3 and go get a specific sliver. So we'll just use 1, 2, 3. And then we can search our library. We're going to want to go get one of the slivers that lets us tap our creatures for mana. Okay, Gemhide Sliver. That's going to come into our hand, and we're going to close and shuffle. So now we're going to use 2 of it to cast the Gemhide Sliver. Now we can tap the Sliver Overlord for mana, and we can tap these 2. And we could cast the Heart Sliver, giving our other slivers haste, which is good because that frees up these 2 slivers that came in on this turn. They can now tap for mana, which means we can cast the Psych Rift or whatever. Or just, they can tap for mana of any color, so we can respond. Sometimes, even if you don't have a response in hand, we want our opponents to think we can respond. Plus, we do have the Fierce Guardianship in hand down here, too, so we can counter a non-creature spell. And just for all practical intents and purposes, if someone has played against this deck before, they know we're about a piece away from being able to combo off. So let's just go ahead and say that someone tries to deal with one of these 2 pieces, and we don't want them to, so we're going to use the Fierce Guardianship, and then we'll move into our next turn. That's also nice, having the ability to give our stuff indestructible, so that's just a little piece of protection. We can go City of Brass here. We've got 10 total mana. We're going to want to go get something here, so we're going to... and just so you guys know, when I use the Sliver Overlord ability, I always use mana that is restricted. These 3 here and the Felwar Stone can tap for a mana of any color, as can the slivers. They can tap for any color, so I want to spend the mana sources that are limited in what colors they can tap for. I want to spend that on this search ability. Just something to be mindful of. And then we can go view our library. Man, I wish I could have drawn a card. The Training Grounds is really the only thing that we don't have out to go infinite right now. If we had that out, I think we would be there. I think probably the Crystalline Sliver would be really good right here because it gives our slivers Shroud, which means they can't be the target because we've got the pieces out that we want. So now it's just about lasting until we can get to our combo pieces. So let's go ahead and get the Crystalline Sliver. We'll close and shuffle, and then we'll go ahead and cast the Crystalline Sliver, which means that slivers can't be the targets of spells or abilities. Let's search again. Yeah, let's go get Morphon the Boundless. That's going to make our stuff cheaper once we play him, and then we'll close and shuffle. From here, we can go ahead and just pass the turn. We do have the ability to give our stuff indestructible until the end of turn, which is a nice piece of insurance, and we have the mana to cast it, and we'll just say that in that turn cycle, we do need to do that. Someone casts a board wipe, and we choose to gain indestructible until the end of turn, which is huge because our stuff had Shroud, so they couldn't target it. So that would be a perfect time to try to cast a board wipe to stop us, and then in response we can make our stuff indestructible. And then we move into our next turn. The Thrumming Hive Pool might come in handy. Go ahead and play a land for turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, we'll shock that in. No big deal. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Taking a damage off the City of Brass to go ahead and cast Morphon. Morphon is going to reduce the cost of a bunch of our stuff, which is great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got 5 right now. We can do 3 and go get... Let's go get the first sliver. Put that into our hand. With the reduction from Morphon, we can cast the first sliver for free. He has Cascade, so now we're going to look at spells from the top of our library until we find one that's less than 5 CMC. So we got Virulent Sliver. So Virulent Sliver is going to come in for free. All slivers having Poisonous 1 is pretty good. Now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got 7. So we can cast the Thrumming Hive Pool now for free if we want to. Slivers we control have Double Strike, and they have Poisonous 1. Whenever a sliver deals combat damage to a player, that player gets a poison counter. A player with 10 or more poison counters loses the game. So we need quite a few more slivers to get up to that 10 mark, but we do have Double Strike from the Thrumming Hive Pool, so each instance of damage being dealt now by a sliver is going to give our opponents 1 poison counter. So probably our best bet now is we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana left. Well, one thing we can do, we've got a sliver in our hand, so we could tap 2 for Siphon Sliver. That's going to give slivers we control lifelink, so we could potentially swing out a little bit. When we cast a Siphon Sliver, then we're going to cascade from the first sliver. So Swan Song, we're not going to be able to use Swan Song. That's just going to go into exile. So we could potentially swing out, or we could tutor some more, which I think we just go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and look at our library, and we're going to go get our other Wooburg Sliver that gives all of our slivers indestructible, which is Sliver Hive Lord. We're going to put that into our hand. We're going to close and shuffle. We're going to play Sliver Hive Lord for free because of the reduction off Morphon, and then we're going to cascade from the first sliver, and it's non-land, so Anguish Unmaking. We're not going to be able to do anything with that. The land's going to go back on the bottom of our library, and the Anguish Unmaking is going to go to exile. So, again, this is not ideal. This is not exactly how we wanted things to go, but it gives you a good idea of the kind of shenanigans you can start to do with these creatures. So we're in a good position to wait out the table. The only thing right now that's going to give us any problems as we have Indestructible and Shroud are going to be a very certain kind of board wipe that reduce our creatures to 0 and it gets around the Indestructible, or a Farewell or something that exiles. So we won't have the exile. But assuming that no one has one of those very specific cards, we sort of have our stuff under control. We can use the Misty Rainforest to go get a different land. Doesn't really matter what we go get. We can just go get a. Right now, the mana doesn't really matter so much. We'll just grab a forest. But again, we can go ahead and go get. We can go get Sliver Queen. Put it into our hand. Close our library. We can cast it for free. We'll cascade off of that. Oh, great. Enlightened Tutor. That's exactly what we need. All right, so we can go get Enlightened Tutor and cast that for free, which then we can go and get. With the Enlightened Tutor on the stack, we can pay 3. So we paid 3 a minute ago. With the Enlightened Tutor on the stack, we should be able to, at instant speed, search and go get the Synapse Sliver. Okay, so then now we'll go search the library, and we can go get the piece we need, which is going to be Intruder Alarm. All right, that's going to go on top of our library. We'll cast the Synapse Sliver for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, cascade off of this, putting the Intruder Alarm into play, which is great news for us. Now we don't even have to worry about drawing the card. That was a good way to get there. We needed one that was at least 4 mana, so the Synapse Sliver is good, plus it can draw us cards. And then probably from there, we can have infinite mana because we can tap 1, 2, 3. We can, or actually, we just do 2 and pay into Sliver Queen to make a Sliver token. So we'll pay 2 to make a Sliver. But before we do, we'll go ahead and just float all that mana. So 1, 2, 3, 4 mana of any color we want. Add the Sliver token. That Sliver token comes into play. Everything gets untapped. So now we have infinite mana and infinite slivers. And the only other thing we need to do is go pay 3 to tutor with Sliver Overlord to get the Lava Belly Sliver. We'll cast the Lava Belly Sliver. We'll have a trigger from first Sliver to Cascade. Counterspell. We won't need a counterspell. And just go to the bottom of our library. And then from there, we can make infinite slivers and infinite mana. And then whenever slivers enter the battlefield, we'll deal 1 damage to target player or planeswalker, and you gain infinite life. So we'll just make, bajillion of these slivers, and every time we make a sliver, we'll ping an opponent for damage, and we will gain a life, and then we will just drain the table out from there. So that is one of the much, much slower examples of playing this. Usually with the amount of other tutors we have, we can go get that training grounds much more quickly, but that was kind of the one piece we were waiting on. We could have potentially gotten there with some other stuff too and just kept putting more and more slivers into play. And then when they have haste, you can just go to combat and kill your opponents that way, or you can use, one of the evasions, one of the flying slivers to give everything flying and get damage in that way, or the poison counters, and you can just overrun. But anyway, this is why this deck cannot be a CDH deck, is because sometimes it does take this long. Your best bet is to play this with other like battle cruisery decks, dragons, those kinds of things. You probably aren't going to want to sit down at a table with someone who is playing CDH. They want to win much more quickly and efficiently. But this is a high-powered deck, and with the control aspect sort of built into it, it gives us the flexibility to get the game this far. There's no real substitute for actual interaction, so you just kind of try to have to, like when we're doing this in Goldfish and just showing you guys how it plays, you just kind of have to simulate it as best as you can. But anyway, we hope you enjoyed this video. Again, jump down and hit the like button, drop us a comment, and hit the subscribe button. It helps us out a ton. Thanks so much again to our patrons for all the support, and to Nerd Gear. Go get 10% off on nerdgear.gg and get your magic accessories. We will see you guys in the next one. Bye!